Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Brookside's story. I'm Quin Schultze, a member at Brookside, and with me is...
I'm Paul DeVries, pastor here at Brookside.
Pastor Paul. Look at this puppy right here. Look at the size of this. It's like Webster's dictionary. Look at this. And it is 1 year, 2024, agenda for Synod. And that got me thinking, and you thinking about, I wonder how many people at Brookside Christian Reformed Church even know what Synod is. And that gets us into what the church is and how the church operates. So it's Brookside Christian Reformed Church. What does Christian Reform mean?
Christian Reform means we're a Christian denomination, but we're in the Reformed tradition, and of course, we're a church. We're part of the Universal Church of Christ.
Okay, and that Reformed tradition means what?
The Reformed tradition really is most associated with the Protestant Reformation and people like Calvin, John Calvin from Geneva, Zwingli was also Swiss, and John Knox in England.
And we're talking about hundreds of years ago.
Yep.
When there were some groups that, I'll say that, put it this way, split from the Roman Catholic Church.
Yep.
Over different issues, a lot of it having to do with how to interpret Scripture and how important Scripture was versus tradition and so forth.
Correct.
So we're in this long tradition.
Right, exactly.
And
the word synod reflects that long tradition. That's an old European word for assembly. It's a gathering.
so we are a gathering as Brookside. We get together at least weekly. We have Bible studies and all during the week, and we welcome you to Brookside Christian Reformed Church right here on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. Come see all that we've got going on. But we have worship, which is what most people attend. That's the most popular gathering we have. But Synod is a different kind of gathering.
Yeah. So think of it as 3 tiers.
Okay.
It starts all local. You have a local congregation. Brookside's a local congregation, but we have sister churches that are also Christian Reform, and we gather then in regional gatherings, which we call classes, which sounds a lot like classes, but it's slightly different. And that's simply a gathering of regional churches. That's the next tier. So, and the way it works is you got all the local churches that send a couple of folks to go to the classes, and you discuss regional business. And then the third tier is Synod, which is the highest tier, and it's the gathering of every church classes, Synod, sends representatives to Synod. Synod meets once a year. It's sometimes referred to as the highest assembly, but that's probably not the best term, and you even notice how I put them this way. It really could be put more like this.
Yeah.
So
and
that's how it works.
And so these classical or regional groups send these representatives.
There's a little caveat.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're not a representative model. We're so used to our representative governments in the United States and Canada and many areas of Europe, but they're delegated, not representative.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I know the idea is, as a pastor, I represent Christ. Mm-hmm. As a member of the congregation, you represent Christ. And when I get delegated to classes, my job isn't to represent my church. My job is to represent Christ there, right? So I'm delegated by the church to go to the group and consider and discuss what I think Christ would want his church to do.
There you go. And this larger group that meets once a year is people from the churches in North America.
Yes, the United States and Canada.
Okay.
We're a binational denomination. Actually, we're beginning to become international.
And how many churches approximately does that represent?
Well, that number keeps morphing and changing, but historically we've been between 700 and 900 congregations.
Okay. And they will get together this year in 2024, as every year, and they have this that's sent out in advance. You can see it's an agenda, and it's amazing. And what kinds of things are in here that people who are the delegates talk about?
The delegates talk about things that the collective church, starting with the regional body, the local body, and then the regional body, have said they think are important to talk about. So our mission agency called Resonate, our university, Calvin University, our seminary, Calvin Seminary, those are standing groups that we have said are important. So they'll have standard reports that will come to Synod that will be discussed.
And there will be some issues that are discussed.
And then there'll be issues that either a local church or a regional body has forwarded and said, we need you to act on this. And of course, one that's been in the news a lot and will certainly be a big deal at this year's assembly will once again be, how do we deal with people who feel differently about LGBTQ and human sexuality issues
Right.
than the official stated position of the church?
But there have always been issues.
Always.
You know, I remember going back and looking at all of the stuff in the 60s and 70s about what popular media you can consume. Can you go to the movies, and if so, what kind of movies?
Right.
And new rating systems make a difference and all that.
Should the Christian Reformed Church make a statement about Vietnam, or should they
yes.
stay out of politics?
And all that stuff.
All these sort of issues are
Yeah.
issues they talk.
And typically those are the same things that we're thinking about in the pew.
And even governance issues. What if I, as a pastor of a local church, go rogue? What if I, and you're okay with it, Quin, and so are the elders and deacons here, but I'm a minister of the denomination. Can the denomination step in and smack my hand, or can they shake their finger,
Yeah.
or how do we hold each other accountable? All those sort of issues regularly come up at
Yeah.
Synod.
And many of them issues are taken up in an advisory capacity. So they say, here's some advice, take it back to the churches.
Yeah.
It's not like to say you have to believe this or you have to do this. Sometimes that happens and there will be a decision like a...
Yep. A little thing that people don't know always about the Christian Reformed Church that actually isn't a little thing at all is we don't really have an enforcement arm. The whole system works on mutual accountability and agreed behaviors. And so in times of great tension, there are always those who wish we had a better enforcement arm. We ought to own the property. But the denomination doesn't own the local property. Brookside owns its own property, right? And we write our own articles of incorporation. The denomination might tell us how they'd like them to be written, but we can write them however So there's always that tension, right? And those are precisely the sort of matters synods dig into.
Martin Marty, a church historian, University of Chicago, retired now, but he once said that denominations are interesting because we can't live with them and we can't live without them. And to some extent, I get what he was. We like to organize, we need to organize, yet whenever you get human beings organized, even as the church, there are going to be problems.
Yep.
So this is how we're organized as a Christian Reformed church, part of the historic Reformed community going way back to John Calvin and others. And here we are today with people being sent every year to this Synod, S-Y-N-O-D, Synod, in order to help us out by taking up some of these issues and sending their advice and counsel back to denominations. Now, one last thing. The people that go there, the delegates, that includes pastors, like yourself could be a delegate, but it also can include elders, right?
Pastors, elders, and deacons, which are the three offices of the church, all get delegated to
So
Synod.
you don't have to be a minister in the sense of being ordained to go.
No. Roughly, you elect a pastor, an elder, and a deacon from each classes, and then one, what I call wild card, meaning it could be either of those three.
Yeah.
By default, usually that ends up being a pastor, but there's no rule that it has to be.
Yeah.
So roughly half the people at Synod would be pastors.
Right. And you have been the president-elect for Synod.
I've been the president of Synod twice now over the years. I've gone, I think, 9 times to Synod in my 30-plus year career. Yeah.
And that is elected.
Yes, that's elected by the
Right.
body that gathers. In fact, Synod 2024 is just elected their president last night. And
Okay.
they elect a president, a vice president, and 2 clerks, and those are the 4 officers of Synod.
And this is an honor for you, really. It shows a lot of confidence
It
in you across the denomination, the Christian Reformed Church. It's great. We appreciate your service that way.
Oh, you're welcome.
And last time when you were president, I went, sat in for a while to see how you were doing, and you're pretty good at that.
Well, but thank you for saying so.
Yeah.
I'm going to be I'm not a delegate this year, but I will be there for a large portion because I'll be one of the prayer servants at Synod, just holding the Synod in prayer.
Great.
And that's what I'd like to encourage all of you. Pray for your Synod. Pray
go.
for the men and the women who are gathered there, deliberating, asking what the Lord's will for the body is.
Yeah. So this is a quick overview on the Christian Reformed Church, the United States, Canada, and expanding, and these annual meetings we have and how they come about and how delegates are selected for it. Do pray for the meetings coming up in June of 2024, but every year. And visit us at Brookside Christian Reformed Church at 36th and Kalamazoo on the southeast side of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Every Sunday, 10 a.m. for worship, but we have other things going on during the week as well. Go to the website and find out, and please join us. We'd love to have you. Thanks, Pastor Paul.
You're welcome. And you got all of the details right. I was listening.
Occasionally.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.